This is all of you guys that have sciatic type pain, you've got a herniated disc and you want to get back in a gym. We're going to specifically be using the example of the hip hinge to show how you guys can get back into lifting appropriately and just explain a little bit about the rationale as to how we're going to go about this process. And so first and foremost, if you are struggling with sciatica, we have to acknowledge that we've got an injury down here in the lower back. Most commonly, we're talking about L4-5 and L5-S1, the last two mobile segments of the lumbar spine. And so that's the area that is injured. It's injured in a load-bearing capacity, meaning that it is often through that bearing of load that you experience more pain. The thought of picking something up while you've got raging sciatica is something that you'd much rather avoid. And so understanding that is really important. But equally, understanding that life is load is equally a very important thing. People often say, well, I couldn't possibly go and do a hip hinge, something like so. My back's bad. I can't do that with weights. Weights often are thought of as, big, scary dumbbells. And doing this hip hinge with the load is quite a scary prospect if you've been struggling with really bad sciatica. And so that's something to bear in mind. But understand, a thick jumper is load. Your phone is load. The question is, how much load are we using, and am I capable, is my back capable of tolerating that? And so why do we choose the hip hinge? Why is this one of the exercises that we talk about? Because the ability to separate your hip mobility from your lumbar spine movement is vital, and it's one of the things that is really holding you guys back in your ability to recover. It is the fact that whenever you go to get out of the chair, you round your lower back. It is the fact that whenever we're doing anything, even a simple hamstring stretch, we're rounding the lower back. And so learning through the hip hinge to parse out, separate out the movement of the lumbar spine from the movement of the hips is a vital skill. And so the hip hinge is a great way to do that. And you'll find that you can practice doing the hamstring stretch till you're blue in the face, but it's giving you no long-term benefit. Whereas if you do a hip hinge and you start to learn the ability to do the hip hinge, you'll find your hamstring stretching becomes more capable, more refined, and ultimately more effective as well.